From Los Angeles, I'm Eddie Garcia. He's Doug Stolhand. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the Puck Podcast. It is Sunday, November the 2nd, 2025. This is our first period of a three-period podcast. The first period, which some of you are watching on YouTube, will cover all the news from the past week in the NHL. We had some interesting signings to talk about. Second period, we're going to review all the games from the past week in the NHL. Believe it or not, we do that every week. And our third period is our fan feedback segment where we read listener emails. We have our off-ice report talking about what's going on in our lives. You can find all three periods of the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. If you like what you are seeing and you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe to this and also subscribe to the podcast as well, please.
The Puck Podcast has been the unofficial NHL show of record since July 22nd, 2006, and we have recorded at least one show every single week since then. We are in our 20th season of covering the NHL as a podcast, and we cover the entire league. Eddie mentioned we cover every team in the second period. We've been doing that since the beginning. If it's a big story in one city, then it's a big story on this show. And every week we start with the biggest story from around the league. And for that, I'll turn it back over to my good friend, my co-host, and a man who is wearing a Los Angeles Dodgers hat that he claims is not a Los Angeles Dodgers hat, Eddie Garcia.
Yeah, it's my LA hat. I consider it my LA hat. But anyway, we didn't have a lot of big news last week. We had some pretty big news this week. We had some pretty significant contracts that were signed. Let us start with the Colorado Avalanche signing forward Martin Necas to an 8-year extension worth $92 million. The 26-year-old will earn $11.5 million annually starting next season. Of course, he was acquired in that blockbuster trade with the Carolina Hurricanes in exchange for Mikko Rantanen. In his career, 454 career games. He's got 133 goals, 210 assists for 343 career points. So I want to certainly get your reaction to this, but I have a question for you regarding this signing, and I wonder if you know what it is.
No.
Okay. Go ahead and give your reaction, or would you like me to just lob the question your way?
Go right ahead.
Okay, so Mikko Rantanen signed with Dallas for $12 million a year. They give Marty Necas 11.5. I think we can agree that Mikko Rantanen is a better player than Marty Necas, although Marty Necas is doing very well, working out just fine, and he is a couple of years younger. But why not just go ahead and keep Mikko Rantanen when this is all said and done?
Well, because the price of $12 million a year or whatever it was not really established as the going rate at the time he was negotiating. It is now. The players that are signing right now are all signing in that range, and it's been interesting to watch since Kirill Kaprizov signed that the salaries haven't really trended up. Connor McDavid, of course, signed that absurdly affordable deal for him, staying flat with his cap hit for 2 more years. And then everybody else is kind of slotted in around that. We've seen a lot of signings now between the $8 million and $12 million a year range. And that's the going rate right now for a player of that age, of that skill, and for that term, for an 8-year deal. So I think a year ago, though, when they were negotiating with Mikko Rantanen, that price was a little bit lower. The price for these type of players was closer to $9 million. You would probably have expected to sign him for less than 10 million, maybe, or just over 10 million. And signing him for 12 million without having the concrete number from the NHL. I know they estimated the cap was going up, but now it has actually gone up, and we've seen the adjustments from teams. They weren't comfortable doing that. They had reservations for whatever reason about signing him to that price. I don't think they'd hesitate if he was on there right now. I think they would have signed him to that deal. But you got to give them credit for turning an expiring asset into a player of Marty Necas's ilk and skill, having him show that he is got great chemistry with Nathan MacKinnon on their top line, and then committing the contract to him. Now, it takes 2 to tango. He had to sign. He could have easily parlayed this into a very big payday in the offseason if he wanted to, coming off a massive statistical year. Certainly, the reservations from some teams would be he was only doing it because of MacKinnon. But at the same time, they're going to want a guy that can score as prolifically as he does, especially at his age. So he would have been the belle of the ball in free agency if he had made it, because so many players have already signed. But I think he saw that he's got a good thing going here in Colorado for a few reasons. One, he's got great chemistry with an all-world player in Nathan MacKinnon, and two, they're a legitimate Stanley Cup contender. So what would you be leaving for? Just money? Because at some point you have enough. You're never going to worry about a bill ever again in your life. So if you got a $92 million contract to stay on a team that can win a cup, and you have a teammate that is as good as MacKinnon that you're playing with, where are you going? So I think, to answer your question, it was just a timing. That the time right now is to pay people $11.5 million for that kind of production, maybe $12 million. But a year ago, I don't think that was the case.
We also had the Utah Mammoth signing young center Logan Cooley to an 8-year, $80 million extension. The 21-year-old leads the Mammoth in goals with 8, tied for second in points with 12. He's got 53 goals, 68 assists in just 168 NHL games with, of course, Utah and Arizona, wink, wink, who drafted him 3rd overall in 2022.
Yeah, he's going to be one of those guys that when he's retiring, we're going to be like, he used to play for the Arizona Coyotes. Remember them? Oh, my, yes. The one last Coyote left in the league. This is a great deal. He's going to be a bargain by the end of this deal. $10 million a year is going to be second line money by the time this deal expires. And he's still going to be first line talent because he's only 21. So this contract doesn't even expire it'll expire before he's 30, and it's an 8-year extension. So that's amazing. And I love this deal for the Mammoth to get that kind of a commitment from a young player who's not only has the potential to be a superstar, but is an emerging superstar in the league right now. He's not just the future, he's the present. And he's been great this season. They've been great this season. And this is just going to keep the good vibes going in Utah ever since they moved. And none of us like how it happened or why it happened, but it did. And it's been a boon for this organization, this franchise, these players, this coach, and this front office, because they have got the financial backing of an owner that is stable, that is committing the resources to both attract and retain high-end talent, and they're playing great on the ice right now. So I love this deal. Logan is a very good young player. If you don't watch many Mammoth games, in fact, I was just chatting with a friend that has not been watching hockey for many years, and he said, "What team should I check out now that I want to give hockey another shot now that baseball's over?" And I said I recommended the Utah Mammoth and the Montreal Canadiens. I said they both got a lot of young talent. They're both a lot of fun to watch, and I think you'll enjoy the broadcasts and the product you see on the ice. So Utah's got a good thing going in it, and keeping Cooley there for the next 9 years now, this year and 8 more, is a bargain.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the deal he signed. I think if I were in his shoes, I probably would have wanted something maybe around 5. I think that's long enough to where you're going to get a pretty good chunk of change stored away. But it's not as long as if something goes wrong, you don't have an out, relatively soon. Just me, but he's still going to be very young even when this deal expires.
Yeah,
So
when this expires and he's 29, and if he decides to go to free agency, then he will still be very highly pursued, most likely, barring a collapse in his talent or something going wrong with his health. God forbid, but he should be a very highly sought after player 9 years from now, and he'll get a huge contract then as well. And he's already got $80 million in the bank.
And the third pretty significant signing from the week, the Dallas Stars and defenseman Thomas Harley agree on an 8-year extension worth $84.6 million. He'll make $10.587 million per season. It includes a no movement clause after the first 3 years. Harley's 24 was the 18th pick in 2019.
Yeah, this is an interesting one just because Dallas is committing a lot to some players now. They're kind of locked in with what they have. And I'm not saying they're wrong for doing it. I would be committed to Thomas Harley as well. But you've already got Miro Heiskanen signed through till 2029 at 8.45. You've got Essa Lindell signed until 2030 at 5.25. And now you've got Thomas Harley signed until 2034 at 10.587, which there must be some story behind that number because it's too random of an amount to just be what they landed on. And then at forward, they've got Mikko Rantanen signed at $12 million until 2033. Rupe Hintz until 2031 at $8.45 million. Wyatt Johnston at $8.4 million until 2030. So they've got a core in place. And I got to think this is what they're going to ride with. And then the other pieces are going to kind of float in and out of the lineup. I didn't even mention Jake Ottinger in net, signed until 2033 at $8.25 million. So they have their goalie, they have their defensemen, they have their forwards in place for the next few years. The other pieces have to kind of fluctuate. And the big piece after this summer that is still unsigned for them is Jason Robertson, who's a restricted free agent with arbitration rights. You got to think they want to retain him as well. And I'm sure Robertson is happy to talk with them about that. But next year's cap is going to go up, but it's not going up that much. Now, they still have $17 million in projected cap space. I think Robertson could eat up most of that. And then it's a matter of how much is left over to re-sign. And the curious thing will be if they ask Robertson to take a little bit of a pay cut to make the rest of the team work financially. And if it's just a timing thing where, he's the last one to get signed, he's not an unrestricted free agent. So they still control his rights. He can't go put himself out to the highest bidder, but it'll be interesting to see what he signs for and when, because that's obviously the big order of business now that they've got Harley re-signed. I love that core though. I mean, you list all those players. That's a very good group of forwards, defensemen, and goalie to build around for the next 5 years.
And there was one other signing of note, not quite in the level of those other three, but of course, a very important position of goaltender, where the New Jersey Devils agreed on a 2-year, $12 million extension with Jacob Markstrom. He's 35 years old. The Devils know who their goalies are going to be for the next 2 years after this year, as Markstrom's now signed for 2 more years. He's 35, and Jake Allen, also 35, is signed for the next 5 years. So you've got your tandem, a couple of veteran guys going forward for at least the next couple of years there in New Jersey.
Yeah, and you and I both saw the Devils this week in Southern California. They're on their West Coast road trip. And those two guys, I don't know about that commitment personally. I get the present that they are the best 2 options for you right now. That Jake Allen contract didn't make sense to me when they signed it. We really got to lock up this backup goalie for 5 years. As we've seen around the league, there's always backup goalies available. There's more There's more than 64 NHL caliber goalies in the world, and you can always find a backup goalie. That's my opinion. So I don't think you needed to make that commitment. And by having these 2 guys both signed now for this year and the next 2 years, as you said, they're going to have 37-year-old goalie tandem, both of them, in 2 years from now. And that's an interesting choice because goalie is one position that I think you can fall off pretty quick, and injuries and hips and backs and knees and things start, becoming problematic when you get closer to 40. I don't know about this decision from the Devils. I'm okay with Markstrom for 2 more years. It's the Jake Allen being locked in for both of them, and having both of them with a no trade clause to where these are going to be your goalies for the next 3 seasons, no matter what.
I hear you, but Jake Allen's only making $1.8 million per year. That's nothing. It's not a big deal. I know
you could bury him in the minors. Certainly, you could put him on waivers, and somebody might claim him. I hear you.
So you talked about this, and I completely agreed with you. So much was made about, oh my God, the free agent class after this season. It's going to be unbelievable. And you said it, and I'm like, you're totally right. These guys are all going to sign. I mean, the great majority of them are going to sign. I know I kind of got on the panic train with Connor McDavid, but McDavid and Kaprizov and Eichel, and I mean, all these guys, they've all signed for the most part. Cale Makar is the big one that's still out there. Does anyone doubt, though, that he's going to find a way to re-sign with Colorado? I mean, there's
Right.
this class that was supposed to be just outrageously, talented, and teams are going to turn themselves around by signing some of these guys. It just
Oh yeah,
you're like, it's not going to.
save your money
You're
this year.
right.
You need to
Make
spend it
room.
next year.
Make
Yeah,
room.
what are you talking about?
It's not. We knew it wasn't going to happen. At least I think
Right.
most of us didn't believe it, and it turned out to be exactly the case.
It's always the case. It's always the way that is of just the
Well, not always, but most of the time. I
no,
think
but no,
Marner
but
did.
I'm
Marner
saying
would go to.
he didn't, but he didn't make it to free
Well,
agency.
he would have if he didn't get to
Right,
get
but he
where he wanted
didn't.
to go.
Is the point is that you don't all these teams every year we look ahead and we say, wow, look at all the players that are in their last year of their deal. And what a great I hope my team signs them next summer. I hope this happens. And by the time next summer rolls around July 1st, the cupboards are pretty bare. If you're going shopping, there's not guys that are impact players. There's good players. There's always good players. But the absolute impact, the top of the league, the impact players, those guys don't make it to free agency very often. And it's very rare that you see a high impact player like we saw, like we talked about, the players you just listed. Oh my God, you could get Jack Eichel, Connor McDavid, and Kirill Kaprizov all on your team. None of them are coming to your team. They're all re-signed. And so it's now the cupboards are looking pretty bare. If you're a team that has a lot of cap space next summer and you're looking to add a impact player, there is one available, maybe two if you stretch it, in my opinion. And we'll see if they even make it, and that's Adrian Kempe of your Kings and Artemi Panarin. But Artemi Panarin is not a young man. And I don't know that I'd be willing to sign him a big check because it's basically his retirement contract. And how motivated is he going to be as a guy that has changed teams multiple times in his career, has shown no loyalty, and is now signed? He doesn't have anything left to play for. He's 34 now. He'll be 35 next season. What am I signing this guy to? A 5-year deal to take him to 40, to take him right into retirement? That's not appealing to me. And when I watch the Rangers this year, I'm not watching Panarin and saying, man, I got to get this guy. That's a guy that could change the fortunes of my team and turn us in from pretenders into contenders. Adrian Kempe is still in his 20s. That's a guy that I could see writing a big check for. And I think at this point, especially with what's left, if he does make it to free agency, he's going to make $14, $15 million a year. Because if he says, whoever writes me the biggest check is where I'll go, assuming you're actually somewhat of a decent team, I think you're absolutely going to see a bidding war for him, because what else is there? And that has to be appealing to him and his agent. You got to know they're talking about that. The negotiations with the Kings have not been easy. They have not been fruitful so far. There's still plenty of time for the Kings to sign him. Everything can change with one phone call. So I'm not panicked. I don't think he's going to make it to free agency. I expect him to re-sign with the Kings. But again, if I was him and I'm looking at a team where my line mate, Kopitar, is retiring, Doughty won't be long behind him, the team is changing, maybe I'm not in love with the direction the team's going with the aging players they've been signing, maybe I'm interested in seeing what's out there. And he controls those cards. As I said, it takes two to sign it. The Kings can offer him a $12 million deal right now, but he may not. He may say, I'm worth 14 now on the open market, so I'm going to test that. I don't know. We'll see. But it is a far less appealing. And yet the free agent class of 2026 is far less appealing. And yet in April, May, June, we will be hearing about the free agent class of 2027 and how teams need to save their money and how great it's going to be. And oh my God, there's going to be so many. What a bidding war it'll be next summer. It never happens. Last year, it was Nikolai Ehlers, right? And he was the big fish that people were going after. And he took his time and he signed with Carolina. He still doesn't have a goal. Now, he's a good player. He's going to get his eventually. I'm not saying they were wrong to sign him, but Nikolai Ehlers was the big fish available. Come on. That's going to be on the level of Adrian Kempe. He's a good player. He's not top of the league. He's not all-star. He's not one of these guys that's going to take you from missing the playoffs to making them. But on a good team, he can absolutely be a difference maker. And if you're one consistent scoring threat away from making a deep run in the playoffs or winning a Stanley Cup, that's the kind of guy I could see throwing money at. And, damn the torpedoes. If you're a GM whose job is on the line, we got to win the cup. I can see going after a guy like that because he's a natural goal scorer.
All right, let's get to the ER report, the health and injury news. Probably the most significant and I don't know, when you look at the highlights, it's always jarring when someone gets taken off the ice on a stretcher. Unfortunately, that happened for Toronto Maple Leafs defenseman Chris Tanev. Took a hit from behind from Matvei Michkov of Philadelphia. Off the ice in a stretcher, went to the hospital. He has since been released. He's been placed on injured reserve. It was an open ice hit. I wouldn't call it vicious, but Tanev wasn't expecting it, and those sometimes can be pretty jarring, and he may have hit his head on the ice as well. There was an interference penalty called on the play. The problem is that Tanev just returned from missing time with a concussion. So, those, as we know from sports now these days, those things can pile up, and you're more susceptible after you've had one. So, don't know how long he's going to be out, but hopefully he's okay. That's always a very touchy, scary incident.
Yeah, the tough thing about that is the uncertainty of it. Like, there's another guy that we're going to talk about for that had a surgery already, and there's a concrete timeline for his recovery. It's, we know the range, barring a setback, barring something happening, he's going to be back in this timeline. That's simply not the case with a concussion. You could be back in a few days, a few weeks, a few months. You may never play again. It's just not known, and there's no way to rush it, because if you start rushing it, then there's setbacks and you're back kind of starting from square one. So very tough to see. The tough thing for the Maple Leafs is two things. One, they are not off to a great start, and they need him out there to keep what is a pretty thin defense when you watch them play competitive. Secondly, a lot of Toronto fans are going to be pissed off about the way the World Series ends, and they're going to take it out on the Maple Leafs because they're not playing well now.
That distraction is now gone. Now it's our focus is on you.
Yeah, and it ended bitterly. So we're coming in hot. If the Blue Jays had won the World Series, they'd be riding a high for a few weeks. No, we're coming in hot, and we want results immediately, and they're not getting them. So they could use Tanev on the ice, both competitively and depth-wise on defense, because I don't love the depth on their defense without him. A lot of pressure now on a few guys. Ekman Larsson's playing well, but he's in his mid-30s. I don't know if he can play the big minutes that he used to. Riley is, I was amazed the other day when I realized Morgan Riley's in his 30s, and it's just like I still considered him a young player, part of their young core, and that he's in his 30s. It surprised me. But, McCabe is no youngster. Carlo, Benoit. It's not a young defense, and they're going to have to step up and fill in some minutes here.
Some other injury news of note. We had Philadelphia goalie Samuel Ersson placed on injured reserve. Predators put standout defenseman Roman Josi on IR. Also, forward Cole Smith is going to miss 3 to 6 weeks. For Carolina, defenseman Keandre Miller and forward William Carrier both on IR. For Boston, forward Elias Lindholm, week-to-week lower body injury. Defenseman Jordan Harris out 2 months following ankle surgery. For the Ducks, forward Mikael Granlund, week-to-week. For the Sharks, forward Adam Gaudette and defenseman Nick Leddy on IR. New Jersey, forward Cody Glass on injured reserve and defenseman Brett Pesce going to miss a month with an upper body injury. And the LA Kings put forward Warren Fogle on injured reserve.
Was Ricard Raquel's injury last week?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, that was the one I was referring to. He had a hand surgery, broken hand, gets surgery. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. We need to make it until mid-December. He'll be back. Okay. You don't know that with a concussion, and that's the tough thing.
Law and Order report, unfortunately. Former Vancouver Canucks forward Ryan Kessler charged with fourth-degree criminal sexual conduct. According to a report from The Athletic, Kessler has been charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of criminal sexual conduct in the fourth degree. He's pleaded not guilty. There was a report, according to the criminal complaint, Kessler is alleged to have engaged in sexual conduct with a 16-year-old.
Yeah, and there was something about there was some extenuating circumstance that as well, like the minor was either physically restrained or disabled. I don't know. There was something about it. It didn't sound good at all. So I'd have to look up the exact wording, but it didn't sound good at all. So he's accused at this point. He's not been convicted. He'll have his day in court and can prove his innocence if he can. But just hate to even hear these types of allegations, much less involving in society, much less involving the NHL. So awful news to hear that about Kessler.
Next scheduled court appearance, November 6th. He was booked and posted $50,000 bond. And there was some details that came out, if you care, about the Mitch Love situation, the former Washington Capitals assistant coach, who had been a hot head coaching candidate. Frank Cervelli reported that it was allegedly a domestic abuse report that came out. We didn't have the details on exactly what the situation was, but that's the report, that it was a domestic abuse situation.
Well, the thing is with that, and I don't know any of the details of that, but I will say that to my knowledge, he was not convicted. He was not even charged with anything.
Correct.
So that's some BS to me, because accusations are free. Anybody can accuse anybody of anything. That's if I would not. I think he would have a case, in my opinion, to that I haven't been even charged with anything, much less convicted. So to terminate my employment, to sabotage my chances as at being a head coach in the interview process is unjust. And you got to believe in the innocent until proven guilty, because, as I said, accusations can be made at any time and can be completely baseless. And we should know by now. I get the, believe women, believe victims, all that. I'm not saying we shouldn't. If something happened, press charges. Let's see it, prosecute the person, get them convicted of these things, present your evidence in court. When it's just an accusation, I don't know. I find it hard to stomach that somebody can lose their career over an accusation that led to no charges whatsoever.
Yeah, well, I mean, we don't know the details, but you are correct. The general tone of what you just said, I do agree with.
Yeah, because all that said, Slava Voinov didn't get charges filed against him either.
Actually, he did. He pleaded no contest.
Oh, did he? I thought she didn't prosecute him.
Well, she decided, like in the middle of it, to decide she wasn't going to cooperate, but they still felt like there was enough evidence to go through with it. So he did actually plead no contest.
I was going to say, when you show up at the hospital, looking like she did, then I don't think we need
I think there were witnesses to maybe something as well.
So. It was evident that it was more than just an accusation against him. There was evidence that he did horrible things. So, and I don't know if that's the case in the Mitch Love case. I don't. If it is, then obviously it's justified. But the famous one for the rest of our lives is always going to be the Duke lacrosse team.
Sure.
They literally canceled the season and got rid of the entire team and fired the coach. And then it turns out it was all a bunch of hooey. None of that happened. And so what the hell are we doing? So yeah, accusations. And I've unfortunately had it in my own family. I've had some relatives that have been wrongly accused and been arrested and not charged, but just had to spend the night in jail and had to, have a police escort to get their stuff. And it's like, for what? They didn't do anything. Well, she said you did. So we're going to take her side of things until proven different. And now Mitch Love has lost his job, and it's a tough situation.
One random shot to throw out there. A fan at the Penguins Blues game fell from the upper concourse to the lower concourse. He was taken to the hospital in critical condition. I did a search before the show to see if there was any update on his condition. There was not. Don't know the age of the person. He wasn't identified, although it just was a male that fell from the upper bowl to the lower bowl. Don't know the circumstances surrounding it. I assume he wasn't pushed or anything, or else somebody probably would have been arrested and charged.
Right.
But
and you said this was at a Penguins game?
Yeah, and I was watching the game, and they never halted the game, and I never knew it happened, except for I read it afterwards. So how there wasn't like a reaction to this, and people like turning around looking and being like,
well,
oh my God.
Was it maybe during intermission?
I don't think so. I thought I read that it happened. Yeah, it says the incident happened early in the first period after Anthony Mantha scored a goal.
Oh.
So,
yeah.
Interesting.
I hope the person is okay, obviously. Something in the water in Pittsburgh. We saw that guy in the Penguins, like he was in an ejector seat.
You mean the Pirates?
Or the Pirates?
Yeah, there was a Pirate fan who fell out of the...
Fell? I mean, he was sitting down, and all of a sudden he's just launched forward. I'm like, what the hell happened here? It looked like somebody had a string on him.
I don't mean to laugh, but of course the thing that just popped in my head was the Nordberg from Naked Gun, O.J. Simpson, which actually does make it funny when he goes down the stairs and gets ejected over the railing. But
when I was a kid, I was at an Angels game, and there was a foul ball hit up towards the third deck. Oh. And I remember looking up, and the guy in the front row reached over to try and catch it, fell over. He was his hand was on the railing, so he was still holding himself up by the railing, and the people around him pulled him back up. He and the people pulled him back up, and he was glued to that seat the rest of the game.
Oh, I would have had to go to the bathroom to change my shorts.
I think he did, but I remember watching that, and the baseball, when it's a foul ball, and just the gasp from the entire crowd as we thought we were going to watch this guy fall to his death, and then pull himself back up, and kind of the nervous applause as he got back into his seat. My goodness. I don't know that there's anything teams can do about this, because the alternative is to raise the railing so much that nobody can get over that thing. And then it's a obstructed view, basically. So it's on the fans for being aware and whatnot, but man almighty, that's scary.
You wonder if alcohol played a factor as well.
Oh, of course. But I mean, as we know as well, these stadiums build these things steep, and they try and cram as many seats as possible. Yep. So he could have just been, excuse me, trying to get down the row and stepped on something wrong and gone over with, hands full of nachos or soda or beer or whatever. And there he goes. My goodness, that's got to be terrifying.
Anything else from the past week, news-wise, that you feel maybe I did not catch? Anything that maybe slipped through the cracks there?
I don't believe so.
All right. Well, then there you go. That is our first period here of the YouTube show. If you enjoyed that and want to hear more hockey talk, we invite you to download the podcast and listen to the next two periods. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts. And if you enjoyed this, like I said, like and subscribe, and come back next week. I'm Eddie Garcia. He's Doug Stolhand, and we'll talk to you next time with another edition of the Puck Podcast.